Hi, my name's Adam Cole, and this is Down to Earth Garden to Table series. Today we're back with an update on our tomato starting demonstration. It's been a couple weeks since we put these under the light, and we're back to take a look at them. Several things have changed. It's clear that they have grown quite a few inches, and they've also put on a lot more leaves. When they first come out of the seed, they have two leaves. These are called cotyledons, and they are the leaves, they're embryonic leaves that start in the seed, and the seed powers them up until they're out. All the leaves thereafter come from the nutrient in the soil, and those are called true leaves. So your first set of two leaves are cotyledons, and then all subsequent leaves are true leaves. Once you start seeing true leaves, you can start to fertilize the plants. And today we'll make sure and show you how we fertilize the tomatoes. Another thing that has changed is we're using a different light. We started with this compact fluorescent light here, which is a very powerful, very white light over the top, and it was doing really well for us. But a couple days ago, Adam from Zen Lion stopped by and dropped us off this LED tube light. And it doesn't put out anywhere near as much light. The light is not quite as white. It's a high lux light, which is a sort of glowy light, which seedlings really prefer. And when I saw it, I was skeptical, thinking that it wouldn't do as much as this great big powerful light. But really, in the last day, these seedlings have grown about an inch, and they all look a lot better. So we're going to keep using this light until we take these outside. This is also a time where we want to get in and thin these. Now, I mentioned when we first started these that I put multiple seeds per cell for redundancy, and then most of them germinated. So a lot of our cells have 2, sometimes even up to 4 different tomato plants in them, or pepper plants. Because they're very limited space, and because we don't want 2 mature plants growing out of in very close proximity, we're going to get in there and snip them out. And this can be really hard for people. This is definitely a part of growing plants that's very challenging for a lot of gardeners, is that after you've started these seeds, you have to go in and remove some of them. But I encourage you to be brutal and pick the best one and get rid of all the rest. If you're doing it at an early stage in this, which you certainly could do, you can snip them as the leaf canopies touch, and you could say if you started with 4, you could snip it down to 2, but ultimately you're going to want to get down to 1. So I would recommend little snips. You can use scissors, but because they're larger, it's going to be slightly more challenging to get into the tight areas. So we use these little, very fine snips, and I'm just going to get in there. And where there's 2, I'll snip out one of them. Choose the best, biggest, straightest one, and remove all of the rest. All right, so we've gotten the seedlings thinned, and you can see that the seedling trays are much more raggedy looking. There's far less coverage in there, and that's all right. It means that each of those plants has a little more room to spread out, and they're not going to be fighting for space. Now we're going to move on to fertilization. Because we've seen our first true leaves, and in fact we have several sets on most of these plants, it's time that we can fertilize. And I like to use a liquid fertilizer when I do my standard watering, which is maybe at maximum about once or twice a week. Today I'm going to use the Down to Earth Liquid All-Purpose 413, and I'm going to use it at half concentration. So if you look at the container plant ratio on the back, use half as much per gallon of water as what it calls for. The other thing I'm going to do right now is use our soluble root growth enhancer, which is a soluble mycorrhizal fungi inoculant, and this is an excellent way to get the mycorrhizae in and around the roots, since we're going to be putting this into water and then pouring it into there so that the roots can just suck it up. And then as the roots spread around that cell, they'll be able to touch the spores very easily. All right, so I've mixed up a solution of water. This is about a half gallon water with the appropriate amount of the fertilizer and the mycorrhizal fungi inoculant. And just like we've discussed before, I'm going to take out one of these trays and set it aside. And then I'm going to water in. So we use a really light fertilizer solution primarily because these are young plants and we don't want to shock them. So again, half solution is about appropriate. I put that tray that I took out back in, and now we're just going to let this sit until it's fully saturated, and we're going to pour off all the excess. And since this is fertilizer water, I'd recommend when you do pour it off onto a plant outside that could use it, or if you have a house plant, pour it off into that. And now once we have that fertilized, we just turn our light back on and let it saturate, and then empty it, and we're good to go. Thank you for watching Down to Earth's Garden to Table series. If you've enjoyed this video, please remember to like us on Facebook and YouTube. Thanks a lot.